Restarts. Let's talk about them. Is it as simple as follow the guy in front of you and go when he goes? Or is there anything else that we can do to try to maximize our track position efficiently? I feel like restarts aren't really talked about a whole lot, and as a result, people don't really pay attention to them the way that they should. It's an extremely efficient way to increase your track position, and this entire video is going to go over my approach to restarts. And so if that sounds interesting to you, buckle up and let's get going. So the first mistake that I see people making a lot is they're giving way too much space to the car in front of them. They think they're closer than they really are. So I will go over how to determine actually how close to the car in front of you are. And then from there, we will go into what your gap should be and how to manage that gap. So with that, let's get into managing the gap. Here's an example of being way too far back. And the issue with this is most leagues that you're in, you're going to get a penalty if you're more than one car length behind the car in front of you. And it's so that you don't just get a massive run and kind of cheat the field on the way up. So the main thing that I see is if cars are too far back, either one, they're way too far back and they're not even planning to jump the restart, or two, they're that far back and they are planning on jumping the restart. But any league that you go into, this is just going to be a penalty. And so this is a good example of being way too far back. If you're this far back, what's going to end up happening is people are going to get runs and then they're just going to come up in front of you. And so you're just losing positions that you don't really need to lose. Naturally, after people figure out that they have been restarting too far back, the next step is you get right on the car in front of you's bumper. Unfortunately, this doesn't really do anything either. There's two scenarios that will play out here. Either one, he gets the jump before you do, at which case he's going to just be pulling away from you. That's time that you're never going to get back. So if he gets in the throttle before you do, there's no way for you to catch him until half a lap later when the draft kind of comes into play and stuff. But by that point, he may have had such a gap that a car on the other line was able to move down or something like that. The second scenario is you actually see it before he does. You get in the throttle, but guess what? You don't have anywhere to go. You're already on his bumper, so any momentum that you would be gaining, you're actually giving to him. That takes it away from you. And also, you don't have anywhere to make any moves. You're already right there on the bumper, so trying to dive inside or outside is just way more dangerous because you don't really have anywhere to go and any room to make that move. So this is just as bad, if not worse, than being too far back. So if we can't be too far back and we can't be too far forward, how do we determine what that Goldilocks area is, right? And so what I have done is I've gone and created an AI practice race. I only put about 10 cars in there and just ride around. And the very first thing I did was I put it where I could barely see the bottom of the tires of the car in front of me. And then you ride around for a lap doing that, and then you hop out of the car and see exactly how far away you are, right? And then you just kind of move up from there. So here's an example of me riding where I can barely see the bottom of the tire of the car in front of me. Here's an example of me being a little bit closer where I'm kind of in the middle of the bumper there. And then here is an example of me being even closer. I would say the one where I'm looking at the bottom of the tires is too far back. So I would definitely start my Goldilocks area up in front. So you've got the one where I'm, pretty much on the bottom of the bumper, and then the middle, and then there's probably another one that I'm not showing here that's even closer, but you're not all the way up on the bumper. And so those would probably be my 3 Goldilocks areas, depending on which plan I want to execute. So now let's talk about planning your restart. You may have a different goal for every single restart that you have. If it's early in the race and you're in the preferred groove, you may just want to maintain position within your line. You may be wanting to change lanes as quickly as possible, and you're willing to give up a spot or two in order to do that. It may be a late race restart, and you just want to gain spots by any means necessary. You know, if that's taking it 3 wide into turn 1, then that's what that means. Or it may be very early on in the race, and a couple of the guys have been getting really racy up in front of you, and you're just wanting to give room and back up in order to generate a run later on, or save some tires. And so those are 4 really good examples of goals that you may have on a restart where you're just thinking about it, right? Like, this is what I want to happen out of this restart, and now I need to go and execute that plan. Now we have our plan, but how do we manage the gap in order to execute that plan? In general, the more aggressive you want to be, the further back you need to be and the larger gap you need to have. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would think, hey, if I'm wanting to go, I really need to be right there on his bumper. But the problem with that is you can't generate any momentum if you're there. So if you're wanting to be aggressive, you need that space to jump to start and generate that momentum. And the bigger the space, the more momentum, the more speed, and the more aggressive you can be. So in general, the farther back you are means the more aggressive you're going to be on this restart. All NASCAR restarts have to start in the restart zone. And so this video shows where that is. As we come up to it, you'll see Geico on the outside wall, and that is the restart zone. As we pull up to it, you will also see lines on the track going all the way across, and a restart zone there below the line on the infield. So the leader has to wait until he crosses this double line here, and then if he does not go before the line crossing the track at the end of the restart zone, the green flag will fly. So what we have to do is time our jump before the leader gets into the restart zone, and then carry that momentum forward so that when he decides to go within that restart zone, we've already gained an advantage and are already moving just a little bit faster than they are. So first, I'm going to show a couple of live examples out on track. The first is going to be where I'm on the inside line and I'm just wanting to maintain my position. And the second is going to be where I'm on the outside line and I'm wanting to be really aggressive on a late race restart. And after that, I will go over a pre-shifting technique, which will help you get through the gears a lot faster. Here I'm going to simulate a restart where I'm pretty much just wanting to maintain my position. And so in order to do that, I'm going to be a little bit closer because I don't need as much momentum. But as we come up to the line, I'm going to start rolling into the throttle just a little bit. And I'm also offset to the car in front of me so that I can see the leader, because we're going to go whenever the leader says go. Now the AI is funky here. They do go before the restart zone. Be aware of that.
Let's get ready to go out there and have a solid day today.
I'm going to be close, but not too close. I'm watching the leader, and as soon as he goes, like, I'm already starting to roll up here.
Green flag.
And see, I could have jumped that to the inside if I wanted to,
Outside.
but instead,
Clear.
we're just kind of maintaining behind the car in front. We are using our pre-shifting
Outside.
here. Make sure that we shift exactly when we want to.
Clear by half.
So that's an example
Outside.
of maintaining position there on the inside
Still
line.
out there. Clear, clear, clear.
On this one, we're going to be restarting on the outside, and I'm going to try to get a run and force them 3. May not be able to get there. It's harder to time when they're not restarting in the box here. But I'm going to be as far back as I can here. But I'm going to be watching the leader, and when I'm going to be already rolling into the throttle before he is. And then when I see him go, I'm just going to go. We are going to get a black here because I'm supposed to be on the inside, but we're not worried about that right now.
Boss man, the pace car's off. You have yourself a great day.
So I'm rolling into it. I saw him going.
Looks like you'll be lining up behind the 6. Ready, green flag.
I wouldn't normally get a black there because I went to the outside. If you pass them below, if you pass them on the inside before the start-finish line, you will get a black, but if you go above them, you won't.
Inside.
So I was able to successfully time that restart and get a really good jump there. And I wasn't like 10 car lengths back either to get that run.
Bottom, inside.
All right, so now I want to go over pre-shifting, which is just selecting the gear that you want to shift into before you actually want to shift into that gear. It's extremely useful on restarts, and so we'll go over that. But there is one important thing you need to do in your settings here. So go to Options. For your shift aid, you either need to have it as anti-stall clutch or none. All of these, the auto clutch, blip, and shift, all introduce a delay. Simulating the clutch for you, and that's just going to make your shifting slower. None of the NASCARs need a clutch, so you can go with anti-stall clutch and it won't introduce that delay for you, and will make your shifting much faster. I'm going to show you on a sequential, but it works the exact same way in an H pattern or for paddles. So having said that, let's get out on track. So I'm going to be in second gear here, and me pulling back on my shifter is me signaling that I want to go to third gear. But I'm going to go ahead and pull back. See, I pulled back, but I'm not going into the next gear. And I'm not going to until I let off the throttle. As soon as I back all the way out of the throttle, it's going to shift up into third gear for me. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here into fourth. And I can hold this here forever. I can go all the way around the track if I want to. But until I lift off the throttle, it is not going to go into the next gear. So the reason that is useful for restarts, as you can imagine, is I can pick the exact moment or the exact RPM where I go into the next gear. So I'm going to go at, between 8,900 and 9,000 RPM here. And so we're just going to simulate going here at the dash lines. So we're going. I've gone ahead and pulled back. It's ready to go. We hit 9,000. I lift, and that's when I shift. So you get to shift at exactly the moment that you want to. We'll come around the turn here. I'm going ahead and pulling back. I'm ready to go. There it is. So there's no clutch delay because we don't have those settings enabled. And I get to pick exactly the moment that I want to go into the next gear. So you make sure that you get all of it, get all the RPM out of it, but before you hit the chip, you can just lift with your throttle foot and you'll go into the next gear. So that's all I've got for us today. I feel like it's a pretty solid base to go off and do your own work regarding restarts and trying to improve. But the fundamentals are to have a plan, to know how to manage the gap to execute that plan, and then make sure that our settings are correct and that we're pre-shifting in order to execute as flawlessly as possible. So that's it for this video. And if you liked it, I would appreciate a like and a sub, and be on the lookout for more. Thanks for watching.